Good morning, PD. You're listening to Live and Local Mornings for Florence and the PD on Live 95.
Welcome back to Good Morning PD Live 95. McCall Farms is our sponsor. 843-661-0937 is our phone number. Love to hear from you. Appreciate the interaction we've had back and forth on the Trump speech to the United. We've not even talked about Rosenstein yet, but I'm sure we'll get to that. Maybe not even tomorrow because we've got something else going on tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, for those that aren't familiar and have been under a rock, not keeping up with the world of politics, there is a scheduled hearing in the Capitol, Senate Judiciary Committee. Brett Kavanaugh and Dr. Christine Ford, who has made some accusations against the potential Supreme Court nominee, political strategist and host of America Can We Talk, Debbie Georgatos is with us. Did I get that? Georgatos. I'm sorry. Georgatos. Is that right, Debbie?
Georgatos is right, and you're in a small league. You can pronounce it correctly. Yes, Georgatos.
Fair enough. Let me try that again. Debbie Georgatos is with us from from America Can We Talk. Debbie, from your perspective, and we've talked at great length about the accusation, the uncorroboration, the unsubstantiation, the lack of evidence, but there is going to be a hearing tomorrow in the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled. Now, whether it happens or not, there's still some details. From what I understand, both sides are trying to sort out. From your perspective, what can we expect tomorrow, and what should we be paying close attention to?
First, again, thank you for having me. You know, my overwhelming impression about this entire process is this is a serious and supposed to be dignified process created by the Constitution. You know, Article 2, Section 2, the president nominates, the Senate gets to confirm, and even Ruth Bader Ginsburg has denounced the conduct of this entire hearing before the accuser came forward. And I think the American public is watching what went on during the hearing with people disruptive and over 40 people had to be taken out, some of them arrested for their conduct. It really has made a mockery of a very serious and important function that the Senate has. So as of tomorrow, I actually think there's some chance that Christine Ford will find a reason not to testify. Dr. Ford, I think she hoped all along to launch this accusation and not have to have her name identified publicly and not have to testify. To all survivors of actual sexual assault, it's understandable. It's embarrassing. Many people never speak up. Women should be encouraged to speak up. Having said all of that, this is really rough to say something from when you were in high school that's never been claimed until you're now before the Supreme Court, before the Senate to be confirmed. I think that Christine Ford is a very high standard to meet. She's got to be believable enough to cause the people on the committee to conclude that Judge Kavanaugh is not able to serve effectively on the Supreme Court. That's a very high standard. I don't know if we're going to talk about what they did in terms of choosing a person to ask the questions, but that was a stroke of brilliance on the part of the Republicans.
It was, and the reason they did that, and the optics of 11, older white guys asking questions in a very threatening and intimidating and I guess vulnerable position that Dr. Ford would be in. I want to get your opinion to this. I'm a man, you're a woman. I believe that every woman who makes that accusation deserves to be heard. I mean, I sincerely believe that with every fiber of my being. Let's find out what happened or didn't. But it seems to me, Debbie, we've ended up in a world today where every woman deserves to be believed. And I just think that's a very dangerous track to head down.
I could not agree more. In fact, I talked about that yesterday in one of my media thing. I'm a lawyer by background, and I love that there are standards of proof set, all sorts of standards of proof applicable in different contexts. What the Me Too, and I've been calling them the Me Too mafia, the people who hold this view are saying is the standard of proof is because she said so. That once she said it, a woman must be believed, a man must be disbelieved, and this is a very dangerous precedent to set. Everyone of every political background should be rejecting that attitude.
I share the opinion and expressed it yesterday that I'm not sure this event ever takes place. I'm not sure that Dr. Ford shows up tomorrow morning. I think they'll They'll issue some late requirements or stipulations, and they'll argue that the Senate Judiciary Committee was unwilling to meet those arbitrary conditions. What is the fallout, and who wins if she doesn't show up and the hearings are not held?
You know, right now where we are, we have 41 of the GOP senators committed, saying they're going to vote for Judge Kavanaugh. I mean, they might have said if she testified, they'd change their minds. You had 41 committee of 10 undecided. You have red state Democrats. You have 6 red state Democrats who are claiming they're withholding judgment, that they're not going to and because they're worried about being reelected in a state that likes Donald Trump, and they think the voters might remove them from the Senate if they don't support Trump's nominee. And so I think if she doesn't testify, Judge Kavanaugh will be confirmed on Friday. I think if you can't show up, what you really said is, I wanted to create a fuss and a stir. And really, people across America can see how much the Republicans in the Judiciary Committee have bent over backwards. They have moved the date twice in response to her request. They told her they would come to California to take her testimony there if she wanted. They volunteered to let her testify privately, without media, or publicly. They've given her many options. I think a lot of Americans are just watching, saying, come on now, time's up. You testify or you don't. I think if she doesn't, he gets confirmed.
Okay, last question. Appreciate your time once again. You said you have a lawyer background, an educated in law. That world operates a lot on precedent. Judges make decisions. I would imagine lawyers prepare courses or courts and cases for precedent. Precedent's an important matter in that. If for whatever reason, and I'm trying to play out worst case scenario, let's say that she comes tomorrow and is a very compelling and convincing witness, so to speak, in this, what I still believe is something unbelievable. But what does that do to precedent? In other words, you've got a lady who can't corroborate, can't substantiate, has no evidence whatsoever, has really kind of an indifferent memory as to when and where and how this event happened. Well, you as an educated lawyer, when you rely so much on precedent, how does that change the way we appoint people to incredibly important government functions like the Supreme Court in the future?
That is such a great question. I will say, regardless of how it comes out, regardless of whether she testifies or doesn't, or whether Kavanaugh is confirmed or not, already what's occurred has set a precedent that many competent jurists who might be considered for a Supreme Court nomination are watching this and thinking, you know what? I wouldn't take it. I don't need this. I don't want the attack on my family. I don't want the embarrassment of the public, because any woman that you've known since 10th grade could come forward and claim something and get. So the precedent, sadly, has been established, and it's not a good one at all. If, however, I will say, if Dr. Ford is really believable and these people all lay eyes on her and listen to her and weigh what she has to say, and then decide, we think we believe her, so the Democrats have cover. They can say, well, we can't confirm, and, the wobbly Republicans who are perpetually wobbly won't confirm. I think it's a very dangerous precedent, even if they listen to her and believe her, because of the way she brought about the claim, because the way the Democrats played a game with it, held on to it since July. This sets a really bad precedent. And, the other thing that could happen is the Constitution does not require a hearing at all. And so for future confirmations, they could just say, we're going to have private committee meetings and we're done, because I think we need to try to take away the theatrics of these kind of nominations and really go back to the serious, somber process the Constitution required.